Hello boys and girls, moms and dads, and welcome to another Whimsical Wednesday Story Time. Today, I'm at Strand Library with a very special guest. Her name is Cindy, and she's going to be reading her favorite story to you today. Are you excited? Yes. Okay, so come a little bit closer. Sit down, relax. Let's switch on our good ears quickly. And let's listen to Cindy's favorite story.
Morning everybody. Hi, my name is Cindy. I'm all the way from Strand Library and I'm here to read you a story. And our story this morning is The Pocket Dogs. The Pocket Dogs, it is written by Margaret Wild and our illustrations is done by Stephen Michael King. Our publishers is Southwood Books Limited. Let's do this. Mr. Pockets had a very big coat, and in his very big coat he had two very big pockets. The two very big pockets were just the right size for two very small dogs. Their names was Biff and Baff. See there? Our big blue coat and Biff and Baff. Every day, winter or summer, Mr. Pockets put on his big coat. Then he put Biff in the right pocket and Buff in the left pocket. "Are you ready?" he asked. "Are you happy?" Biff and Baff always answered, "Ruff, ruff," which meant, "Yes, thank you, Mr. Pockets." So there we have Mr. Pockets putting Biff and Baff in their big pockets. So off they went to do shopping. Mr. Pockets and Biff and Baff always took the long, interesting way to the shops. As they walked along, people said, "Hello, Mr. Pockets." "What big pockets you have," said, "What big pockets you have, Mr. Pockets." "Hello, little pocket dogs." "Hello, Biff and Buff." "Hello, Biff and Buff." Biff and Buff always said hello most politely. Can you see here? Looks like it's a bit of a windy day. There is Mr. Pockets with Biff and Baff in the pockets on their way to do shopping. Then one day, Biff stuck his foot through a small hole in Mr. Pockets' right pocket. In no time at all, the hole grew bigger and bigger and bigger. Biff couldn't tell Mr. Pockets about the hole in the pocket, but he could tell Buff. Buff said, "One day you will fall out of the pocket, on the ground, on your head, and you will be lost." "Ruff," said Biff. You see here? Biff is in the pocket and he put his foot through, and as you can see, gradually it got bigger and bigger. And that's going to be a sad thing if Biff would fall through the hole and get lost. That night, Biff had a bad dream. He dreamed he fell out of the pocket. He dreamed that he looked and looked for Mr. Pockets and Buff, but he couldn't find them anywhere. He woke up feeling cold and alone. Can you see here? He's having that bad dream and he's dreaming, "Oh my goodness, I hope I don't fall through the hole. And what if I get lost? What am I going to do?" The next morning, Biff hid under the bed, but Mr. Pockets found him. Biff hid among the socks and the undies, but Mr. Pockets found him. Biff hid in Mr. Pocket's hat, but Mr. Pockets found him. "What's the matter with you today, Biff?" said Mr. Pockets. Can you see here? He's trying to hide. There, hid under the bed. He's amongst all the undies. And here, Mr. Pockets is asking, "What's up?" You see there? He looks a little bit sad. Biff tried to tell him. Buff tried to tell him. But Mr. Pockets didn't know what they were saying. Mr. Pockets put Biff in his right pocket and Buff in his left pocket. "Are you ready?" he asked. "Are you happy?" Buff said, "Ruff, ruff." But Biff couldn't say anything. His mouth was full of coat. Off they went to do shopping. Can you see again? In the coat, in the left, in the right pocket, and they're off to do shopping. "Are you all right there, Biff?" said Buff. Biff opened his mouth to say, "No, not really," and out of Mr. Pocket's pocket he fell, onto the ground on his head. When Biff looked up, he saw legs, lots and lots of legs, but he couldn't see Mr. Pocket's legs. "Ruff, ruff," said Biff. You see that? Oh my goodness. He fell out of the pockets on the ground. And as you can see, legs everywhere. Now he's a bit confused. A lady with a shopping basket stopped. She said, "Hello, little dog. Are you lost? I will try to find your home." The lady put Buff in her basket and off she went. But Biff didn't like being in the shopping basket. He was a pocket dog, Mr. Pocket's dog. So Biff jumped out of the basket and ran away. See there? The lady put him in the shopping basket. She says she's going to try and find him his home. He's not used to being in baskets. He's used to being in pockets. As you can see, look there. Out he jumps again. A small girl who was pushing a toy pram said, "Look, Mum, there's a little lost dog." "We'll put him in your pram," said her mum. "We'll try to find his home." So Mum and the small girl put Biff in the pram and off they went. But Biff didn't like being in the pram. He was not used to being in the toy pram. He was a pocket dog, Mr. Pocket's dog. So Biff jumped out of the pram and ran away. As you can see here, they put her in the pram. He's not used to being in the pram. He's a pocket dog and he wants to be in pockets. "Hello, hello," said a man with a shopping trolley. "I nearly trod on you. Come with me and I'll find your home." The man put Biff in his shopping trolley and off he went. But Biff didn't like being in the trolley. He was a pocket dog, Mr. Pocket's dog. So Biff jumped out of the trolley and ran away. "Ruff!" said Biff. See here? The gentleman put him in the trolley. He's not a trolley dog. He's a pocket dog. So he's looking for Mr. Pockets. He shut his eyes, tucked his tail between his legs, and put his head on his paws. "Ruff!" said Biff. Then Biff felt someone pick him up and hold him tight. "There you are," said Mr. Pockets. Buff and I have been looking everywhere for you. There. He was scared. Where am I going to find my Mr. Pockets? And he feels someone gently pick him up. And he says, all right, there it is. Mr. Pockets tucked Biff into his coat and took him home. Biff and Buff watched Mr. Pockets get out a needle and cotton and sew up the very big hole. Did you fall onto the ground? Said Buff. Yes, said Biff. On your head? Said Buff. Yes, said Biff. You were lost, weren't you? Yes, said Buff. And he licked Biff's ear to show he is sorry. Yes, I was lost, said Biff. For a while, I was in a shopping basket, I was a toy pram dog, and I was a shopping trolley dog. But now I am found. I am a pocket dog, Mr. Pockets' pocket dog. Look at there. He's fixing up that hole in his pocket, and there the two of them are consoling each other. And he jumped onto Mr. Pocket's lap and wiggled into his shirt against his heart. Look at there. Doesn't that look good? Did you enjoy that? I enjoyed it quite a bit. See you soon, guys. Bye.